Hey, you listening? The man suddenly snaps back to reality. The team huddle is still going on. He sputters out a half-whispered apology for daydreaming. Instead, the boss takes the opportunity. You know, you could stand to be a lot more productive. Hell, we've got people with half your experience they're doing. The youngest member of the team graduated from college a mere 2 years ago. But sir, says the junior member suddenly, I have a lot to learn, and he's willing to help with whatever I need. Rather than easing off at this, however. Do you see that? He roars. That kind of humble attitude is exactly... The man glances at his coworker and sees his mouth twist into his... Though the junior employee presents a humble, helpful front, he actually only takes assignments that are shorter. He knows he's the boss's favorite and uses this fact, and the boss thinks he's found a new lackey, so he's willing. The man knows what they both think of him. He is a target, a lump to be misused however they... Lunchtime arrives. The man sits in the corner break area, munching on a stout coworker approaches with a can of coffee in hand and gives it to the man. This stout man is an engineer who joined the company at the same time. Though not close enough to call each other friends, the man does not find it. But he also knows him to be the type who tries to please everyone and avoid me. Anyway, hope it all works out. The stout man stands there awkwardly for a moment. The day comes to a close. As the man is packing up to leave, his boss approaches. He wonders dispassionately if he's in for another scolding. It turns out he is. His boss immediately. But no matter what he says, it will. This is just a job. It pays for food and a roof over my head. The man repeats this to himself as he waits for his boss. Eventually, he finds himself standing on the train. It's full, but not uncomfortably so, and he has room to scroll through his phone. As he peruses his usual gaming news sites, an advertisement catches his eye. The game development company that makes his MMO is looking for an engineer. He typically scrolls through advertisements almost unconsciously, but this one seizes his attention. Later, the man sits down in front of his... He types a joking greeting in the group chat. He vaguely wonders why he feels so at home with these online strangers who he has never met. For the next few hours, the man and his... But their attempts go miserably. The party is disjointed and out of sorts, and they end up falling. The man apologizes for his poor leadership. His teammates are aware the loss is not the man's fault, so they listen to it. It is a very constructive discussion. Eventually, as always, his friends log off one after the other, their names disappearing from the screen. Then, one of them offers a parting remark. It's a compliment, the kind of casual thing people exchange a dozen times, but it causes a terrible sense of guilt to rise up. I'm fooling them, lying to them, but if I could, I would. Though his body cries out for sleep, the man logs out of the game. He arrives at the game developer's website and navigates to the section on open. He doesn't want his online friends to know what he's like in reality. He doesn't want them to be disappointed. But if he ever wants to change that, he will need to make a greater change to himself. Stop drifting. Levania would know what to do and put a plan in motion right away. After a brief moment of hesitation, he attaches his resume. The man's smartphone lights up as he receives a notification. He has an email from the game company congratulating him on Though the man hardly ever shows emotion, he smiles as he reads. Several months later, the man finds himself entering the doors of the company. He has spent the last few months burning the candle at both ends in order to complete it. They were clearly impressed, because they invited him in for a face. Interviews had never been the man's forte, but he has a plan. As they fire question after question at him, he tries to react as if it works better than he could have imagined, and his answers are both positive. As the interview ends, they compliment him again on his answers and his game. He heads toward the train station. The sky above him is a cloudless, brilliant blue. I think I aced that interview. If I get the job, I'll be reborn. I can be like Levania in my real. Then maybe I can be my true self around my online friend. As the man sets off for home, his face the next day. When the man arrives to work at Dull Inc., he comes across the stout coworker, and though he doesn't wish to eavesdrop, he finds he can't help himself. Their hushed voices still carry across the empty office. It seems the junior employee has made a serious error, scared of how their boss will react. But he now realizes he will not be able to keep backed into a corner. He finally decided to seek out the other man. After hearing the story, the stout man leans back in his chair and knits it. "You have to tell the boss," he says. "Do it today. The longer you put it off, the worse." Clearly dejected, the young man wanders off in a day. Later that afternoon, the stout employee is called into the boss's office. The man can't hear things clearly, but it's obvious from the tone. A few words drift through the closed door, enough for the man to realize his coworker. Why is he taking the blame? It wasn't even his fault. He glances around the room and sees the junior employee and a couple of his friends. I'm going to kill this guy. He feels himself suddenly overwhelmed by terribly dark emotions. The man suddenly realizes what happened. The junior teammate had pinned the mistake. He did so knowing full well their boss would never question the word of it. Unable to stand it a second more, he pushes his chair back and begins. "Grant me your courage, Levania." Just as he nears the office, the conversation grows increasingly. "You two were over there whispering earlier," says the boss. The man knows exactly how this will play out. In the end, his poor coworker will take the blame. The man readies himself and opens the door. "I'm busy here," cries the boss. "Can't you see that?" The man pauses, takes a deep breath, and begins. After a few moments, his boss interrupts. "I see. You're in on this. Enough. Back to your desks. I'll figure out what to do with you later." When he hears this, the man feels his will. Though he swore to be a stronger person like Levania, he can't even help a single coworker. "I've had enough of this company. I've had enough of me." I wonder if this fight would be too much even for Levania. The man has no answer, but he knows one thing. Trying to fight a boss. Several weeks later, the man receives a letter. It is a formal offer of employment from the game company. The man receives a formal offer of employment from the game company. The next day, the man walks into his boss's office and hands him a letter. It is his 2-week notice. But it is also noticed that he plans to take the rest of those 2 weeks off as vacation, and will only come back for his final day of work. He will still leave the job with far more vacation than he can ever use, but he doesn't care. He simply wants to get out. His boss receives the letter coolly, showing no particular sorrow or surprise. He then informs the team of his departure during the morning huddle. Soon, word spreads to the rest of the office. After the meeting, the stout coworker approaches the man and places a hand on his shoulder. Thanks for all your hard work, and for trying. They both know what he's referring to. After the incident with the junior coworker, each of the men received a reduction in salary. The fact that he was punished for the fault of another upset the man, but there was nothing to be done. The stout coworker, never one to make waves, simply accepted the pay cut without a word and continued on. That night, for the first time ever, the man and his coworker head out for a night on the town. Though his team held occasional drinking parties, he had never attended one. He never had a reason to. But this time, his falsely accused coworker had invited him, and they both understood it would be the first and last time such a thing ever happened. At the bar, alcohol works its dark magic, and the man begins to open up. He talks about his favorite games, his next job, and his hopes and dreams for the future. He speaks of his desire to change himself. He has never laid himself bare like this. It is both liberating and terrifying. His tipsy coworker listens for a long time before finally responding. 2 weeks later, it's the man's last day at work. He leaves his house with a spring in his step. The thought of never entering dull ink again makes the packed train feel like a vacation. All he has to do today is finish some paperwork and sign a couple of documents. Once he turns in his security badge, he will walk out the front door for the very last time. Before he reports to security, he wanders the office looking for the stout coworker so he can say goodbye. But he can't find him anywhere. He asks the junior teammate if he's seen him, and the man responds, "That guy? How should I know?" Yet again, he feels his blood begin to run cold as rage overwhelms him. Perhaps his coworker called in sick. Perhaps he had a planned day off. With no other choice, the man finishes his paperwork and leaves. He then makes his way to the station. He stands at the center of the platform, waiting for his train to arrive. It's early, and the station is relatively empty. Tomorrow, he will begin a new life at a new company. He will never have to set foot in this station again. It is another in a series of goodbyes. A momentary feeling of loneliness quickly transforms into one of excitement. Starting tomorrow, I'll be reborn in a new world, one where no one knows me. I'll be strong and reliable, just like Levania. The light of hope shines brightly on the man's heart. A voice echoes through the station, announcing the arrival of the next train. Suddenly, something collides with the man from behind. He stumbles forward and goes flying onto the tracks. What happened? Where are my glasses? Oh God, I need to get back. But the man finds himself frozen in confusion and fear. A lone figure looks down on him from the platform. It is muttering something. With you gone. The man's head snaps up. Standing before him was the coworker the man had tried to protect. With you gone, I'll be the one they bully. I can't stand the thought of you being happier than me. But with you gone, the shrill sound of a train whistle drowns out the rest of the thought. All sound stops. in a silent vortex of darkness. A few thoughts swirl. I don't want to die. I want to keep living. Dreams reborn.